Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to those who are joining us from India, and a very good morning to those of you who are joining us from Europe. I'm Samrat, working for Euraxess, working for you. Dear participants, it's a great pleasure to offer you this webinar today on the Maurice MSCA-Postdoctoral Fellowship, how to write a successful proposal. Now, over the last weeks, we have been providing you a lot of information, a lot of webinars on this fellowship, which is one of the most prestigious in the world. And we're coming kind of to the culmination of this process with you. Today, we're having an excellent expert speaker who will guide you through the different parts of this proposal and help you at preparing an excellent proposal. Now, we are organizing this webinar series in partnership with India Bioscience. It's a great pleasure for us, to do this together with our partners and reach to many of you who are interested in this fellowship. Let me say that we have organized this session. We have two webinars. The first webinar today is a general information session on the proposal itself. So our expert speaker will guide you through the different structures of it and give some very good advice on that. On the 17th of August, we're having part 2 of this webinar, where we invite you to send us on our web email, india@euraxess.net, your specific proposal related questions. We will collect them and our expert speaker will try to answer them on that webinar session, the 17th. For that, you have to send us these questions by the 14th of August in order for us to prepare for the expert speaker to prepare the answers. So please do that as soon as you can. Now, with any further delay, I'm handing over the mic to my dear colleague, Dr. Shantala Haridas, who is the Executive Director of India Bioscience. Shantala?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Samrat. A very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of India Bioscience as well. We are thrilled to be able to partner with Euraxess and Euraxess India and put together this webinar on the MSCA fellowships at such a critical point, because right now, as you all might know, you're about 1 month away from the deadline, which is a great time to fine tune your applications. So I hope all of you will find this 2-part webinar series, which is not always so common, a ground for you to kind of really dwell into your applications, fine tune it. And we hope you make the most of, having an expert such as Eugenia talking about how you can put together your application. Just to let all of you know that India Bioscience runs a program called the International Grants Awareness Program, which Samrat was alluding to. And so we do have some other resources as well related to both the MSCA Fellowship and other international funding opportunities. So I'm not going to talk too much about India Bioscience, but I'll put our link in the chat box. Do visit our website. Just if you have some time, if you're curious, we have a lot of fun things on our website. And so with that, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I'm going to hand it back to Samrat so we can hear from Eugenia. Thank you all and welcome.
Thank you, Shantala, for his very warm, welcoming words. And you already mentioned the name of our guest speaker today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Eugenia Shadlova. Eugenia, it's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Samrat, for introducing me, and thank you for inviting me to this webinar. It's a pleasure to speak today, and I really hope I will be able to provide you some useful information to succeed with your application. So, if you don't mind, I will start.
Yes.
And so, share my screen. So the objective of today's webinar is not to talk about the rules of the call, which have already been presented to you before in the previous webinars, but to go through the application process to present you the content of what is expected in the proposal and the application process on the participant portal. So the first part of my presentation will concern the application process. We'll go through the participant portal and different proposal documents. And the second part will be dedicated to some tips on how to better write your proposal and to give better chances to get funded. So just some information about the call calendar. The call deadline is the 14th of September. Then the evaluation process will take place between November and January 2023. And the first grants the grants preparation will start in March 2023. And the first projects will be able to start in April 2023 and at latest September 2024. So the calls for proposals are published on the European Commission funding and tenders portal. So the first thing to do is to go to the call page to read carefully the call text and the call documents. And one of the important call documents is the guide for applicants. So please read carefully all those documents and check your eligibility. And when it's clear that you are eligible and you found your host institution, you can start the application process. So here you have a screen print of the call page, and to go to start registering your proposal, you should go to submission service and to start submission. To do it, you will need to use the participant identification code of your future host institution. So now I just go to the portal and show you how it works. So here I am on the participant portal. So go to Horizon Europe, Maurice QA actions. Then we'll choose postdoctoral fellowships and then go to submission. So you have to choose either European fellowships or global fellowships. So as global fellowships are only open to EU nationals or long-term residents, you will more likely apply to European fellowships. So you choose this action and you click to start submission. So then you confirm that you choose this action. And you will be asked to register. I will register now with my code, but if you don't have an account yet, you will need to create it. It's a very quick process. So you sign in. And then here you are asked to first indicate your host organization, the organization where you will go to do your fellowship in Europe. So you can either search it with its PIC code or with a short name. I strongly advise you to search with the PIC code and to ask your host institution for its PIC code. Because, for example, if you search it with its short name, sometimes some organizations may have different PIC codes and only one which is valid. So here is, I do the search with CNRS, with a French major research organization, and you see here it has different PIC codes because sometimes some labs create the codes while they have to use the one existing, and the only one is validated. So only this one should be used for CNRS. But this is why it's better to ask your host institution for its PIC and just put it like this. There is no mistake. Then you need to indicate your role in the proposal. So if you are the fellow, the researcher, you should indicate that you are the researcher. And just know that also your supervisor or some contact person from your host institution, for example, somebody from EU Grants Office, can also create a proposal for you and give you access to this proposal. So then you need to put your proposal acronym, short summary, and indicate the scientific panel. So one of 8 scientific panels. And then we will be able to go to the next step. So please note that the acronym and the summary you will put here, you will still be able to change it later. So just if you don't, if you're not fixed yet with your acronym or summary, just put some first version of it and you will be able to change it later. So when you are connected, when you put this information, you will arrive to the page that looks like this, where you will need to add different contacts from your organization to the proposal, and you can also add associated partners. So if you apply for a European fellowship, the only associated partner you need to add here is the partner which will host you for a placement, for a non-academic placement that is possible to do. It is possible to do at the end of your fellowship. It is not mandatory, so if you have no placement, you do not have to add any associated partner at this stage. And if in some case you apply to global fellowship, you can also add the outgoing host for global fellowship at this page. And you can also add from this page contact people from your host institution. For example, if you're registering it as a researcher, you can also give access to your supervisor and to administrative staff from your host institution. To do this, you just need to indicate a role. Only supervisor will have the main contact role, and other contacts from your host institution will be just contact person. And you indicate an email address of this person, and then this person will be able to connect by using the email address you have provided here. So then you will be able to go to the next step. The next step where you will actually be given access to the proposal templates. So here you can download the Part B templates in a modifiable format and fill in the administrative forms here online. So I'll just shortly go back to my slides. Yeah, so your proposal is composed of two parts. There is a part A, which contains the administrative data, which has to be filled in online, and the part B, which is your scientific document. So as I showed you on the portal, you have to download the part B templates in modifiable format and prepare your proposal. And then when it is ready, you will be put it in PDF and upload on the portal. And the part A is to be filled in online, and this is an administrative data. So you can, there is a part of information to be filled in by you as a researcher, but also a part of this information can be filled in by the administrative staff from your future host institution. So when you fill in your administrative data, part A, and when you're finished to preparing your proposal, part B, you should put it in PDF and submit it on the participant portal. So now let's see more in detail what is expected from the part A and the part B. So in the part A, you will find general information concerning your proposal, such as acronym, title, duration, evaluation panel, different descriptors and keywords, abstract and declarations. Here, I would like to draw your attention to the choice of descriptors and keywords. So these are very important points as they will define the choice of the evaluators for your proposal. So please look through all proposed descriptors and keywords. You have also a right to put some free keywords, and think it out thoroughly because it will impact on the choice of the evaluators for your proposal. And the same way, the abstract is also very important. The abstract should be the concentrated, most important information concerning your proposal. So please try to put there the most valuable and important information on your proposal. Then the participants, you will have to put the information concerning your host institution. Some of that information will already appear through the PIC code. You will need to indicate the departments, such as laboratory or laboratories involved in the project, the information about your supervisor, the information about the researcher, the role of the host institution in the project, publications and achievements of your host institutions on the topics linked to your project, or some important infrastructure that will be made available for your projects, and also indicate if your host institution has the gender equality plan. So please note that now it is mandatory to have a gender equality plan for 2022 calls. So your host institution is supposed to have it, but you can, of course, ask your the administrative services of your host institution to help you to fill in this information and to confirm they have a gender equality plan. In the part A, you will also need to fill in the budget information, and actually the budget will be calculated automatically when you will indicate the project duration and the country. And you will just need to indicate if you are eligible or not to the family allowance. And finally, there is also a part concerning ethics and security, where you will need to fill in the questionnaire, and in case you answer yes to some of the questions, you will need to add additional explanation and explain how you will address these ethical issues in your proposal. So this is about administrative forms that you fill in online and then validate and save. And there will be also the part B, which is composed of two parts. One is the part B1, which will be actually your scientific proposal, composed of 3 sections: excellence, impact, and implementation, which correspond to the 3 main evaluation criteria. And this part is strictly limited to 10 pages. So please pay attention not to make it longer than 10 pages, as any additional pages will be disregarded. There is also the part B, which are the annexes to the part B2, which contains the annexes to the part B1, which is not limited in duration and in size, sorry, and which is composed of 8 sections, actually. Section 4, which will include the researcher's CV, Section 5 with the description of participating organizations, your main host institution, but also some associated partners for secondment or for placements that you will indicate there. Section 6 and 7, which will include additional information on ethics and security, and Section 8, which will include the letter of commitment, which is requested for the outgoing phase host for the global fellowship, which I'm probably not concerned by this, and the non-academic placement host. So again, maybe repeating here some information about what is expected from the part A. So in part A, you will find some, also you will need to fill in the researcher information. And so probably I will go now again to the participant portal to show it to you. Okay, so when you go to the participant part, so the part A, you will be asked to fill in the information concerning the laboratory, the supervisor, but also yourself as a researcher. And wait a few seconds when it's loading. Here, yeah. You will have to put the information concerning the PhD award, and for example, if your PhD is expected after the call deadline, like in this example, this second line will be generated, and then you will need to indicate the date of the PhD defense. So as you, if you get your doctoral degree after the call deadline, but you have defended your thesis before the call deadline, it is still, you will still be eligible for the call, and so you will need to indicate here the date of your PhD defense. And if the call, if your PhD was defended more than 8 years before the call deadline, then you will have to indicate the activities you had on last 8 years. So I just wanted to show you how it works. So here we are, for example, up. Here will appear normally. When you go to save, there will appear an additional table. So here I put a date where you have defended, you have got your PhD more than 10 years before, more than 8 years before the call deadline. So then you will have to indicate if you have different, as you must not have more than 8 years of research experience after the PhD to be eligible. Then you have to indicate different, if you have some career breaks or research experience or working experience outside research, or maternity and paternity leave, which will increase this eligibility window and make you eligible. And so if you have none of those, that means that you are not eligible. And then you will also have to indicate the place of residency in 5 last years to show that you respect the mobility rule to be eligible for this call. So I'll go back to my slides. Okay, so there is also a specific table that the European Commission made available on the call page, where you can have a kind of calculation just by putting different dates of your previous activities after the PhD, and to calculate if you are eligible considered your research experience after the PhD. So then you will also have in the part A some call specific questions. So for example, the applicants will be asked to confirm if they qualify for the European, for the Euratom topics. And actually, unfortunately, as Indian nationals, you are not, because you must be national of EU member states or Euratom associated country to qualify for Euratom topics. But you can be eligible for ERA fellowships. So you will be also asked to, if you're eligible, if you want to be considered for ERA call. And so ERA fellowships is a scheme which allows the candidate to get additional chances to be funded if they apply in ERA countries or ERA regions. So here you have a list of ERA fellowship countries, and if you apply in one of those countries or regions, you may be eligible for ERA fellowships, which means that in case your proposal is positively evaluated and ranked, but not high enough to get MSCA funding, you can still be funded through the ERA fellowship scheme. So I strongly advise you to indicate that you wish to be considered for ERA call in case you apply in one of those countries or regions. You will also need to fill in the segment information in the part A and the information on non-academic placement in the part called specific questions. The keywords, as I have already mentioned, are very important, and the main principle remains as in Horizon 2020. You have the keyword 1 and keyword 2 that are mandatory, and they correspond to the select panel. The keyword 3, which is mandatory, can be from any other panel, which is important in case your project may be submitted to 1 or 2 panels and you hesitate, you don't know, just know that you will be able to indicate the secondary panel through this keywords system. And there is also a possibility to put keyword 4 and 5, which are optional and maybe from any panel. And finally, there is a question concerning the resubmission that will appear, and you will need to answer if a very similar proposal has already been submitted to this call or other Horizon Europe call. So the part B, as I already mentioned, are strictly restricted to 10 pages and structured with in 3 sections, which correspond to the 3 evaluation criteria. So please remove the cover page, the table of contents, and your part B1 should start with the excellence part. You can also remove the instructions and different definitions just to get more place, but please keep the same structure and subheadings as given in the proposal template. So in the part B, as I already mentioned, will include the researcher CV, the information on participating organizations, the letters of commitment, and the ethics and security additional info if relevant. Finally, when you're finished filling in the administrative forms and when you have prepared your B1 and B2 proposal, you should upload the Part B proposals here on this page of the participant portal. Then you click on Validate, which will indicate you if you have some errors, for example, in filling in the A forms, or if you forgot to put B2 or B1. And these errors will be indicated in orange if these are not very serious errors and which will not prevent you from submitting the proposal. And in red will be indicated the errors which will prevent you from submitting the proposal. So you will need to correct then and fill in the fields that have not been filled. And then you click to the submit button. Please know that you can submit your proposal as many times as necessary before the call deadline, and I strongly advise you to submit it as early as possible when you already have a somehow acceptable proposal, and then you can improve it and resubmit as many times as necessary the new versions before the call deadline. So there are many resources and guidance that were made available by the European Commission for the proposers, and that you will find on the call page. So there is first the reference document is a guide for applicants, and the MSCA work program where you will find all information concerning the call rules and the eligibility criteria. There are 2 documents concerning the calculation of 8 years research experience. There is an explanation memo which explains what kind of experience is considered as research experience and what is not. And there is also an Excel table where you can just fill in your different information concerning you, and will indicate if you are considered as having more or less of 8 years in research experience, which can be very useful in case of doubts. You will find also the information on how to complete the A forms, proposal templates in PDF, model grant agreements, where you can find different legal information concerning your future project and the rules for this call. Online manual on how to submit an application, an FAQ, which is also maybe also useful if you have some questions, just to look through this FAQ. You will also find the guidelines on the supervision, which can be useful to read to you and to your future supervisor, and the MSCA Green Charter with the set of rules to apply environment respectful practices in the frame of your project. Finally, if you need help, you are invited to ask for advice your MSCA national contact points in the country where you apply. You can also submit specific queries to the Research Inquiry Service, for example, about funding, validation of participants, or some technical issues. And also, you should also have an EU grants office in your future host institution. So please get in contact with them as early as possible and ask them for help. Sometimes they provide quite advanced services to proposals such as proofreading or some ready parts of the different proposal documents. So this was the first part concerning the application process. Maybe we can make a small pause and take some questions concerning the application process. What do you think, Samrat? Or do you prefer to go to the end of my presentation and take the questions later?
Yeah, I would say we continue with the presentation and then take the question. Yeah.
At the end. Okay, fine. So now let's focus a bit more on the content of your scientific proposal and what is typically expected there. And to begin with, I would like to draw your attention to the 3 evaluation criteria: excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. So your proposal is structured in the same way, just to help the evaluators to find relevant information concerning all these 3 evaluation criteria. So I advise you to keep this table close to you when you will be writing your proposal, and just try to make sure that all information concerning which is expected in these criteria is present in your proposal, and that just you try to put the most valuable information to show the most important and the most attractive points of your proposal, and to show that it meets all these evaluation criteria. Then another important point is the abstract, as I already mentioned. So the abstract should contain the most, the concentrated information on your proposal and the most important and valuable information on your proposal, but it should also be concise and easy to understand. So the evaluators will have to evaluate a quite large number of proposals in a fairly short time. So to draw their attention, please be concise and keep in mind that shorter is better. Then also keep in mind when writing your proposal that the evaluation panel will be composed of both industry and research institutions representatives and of representatives of different member states. So address your proposal to a fairly broad audience. Now let's see the ponderations of different evaluation criteria. So you will know that excellence will weight 50%, impact 30%, and implementation 20%. So considered like this, you can think that excellence is more important than impact and implementation, but please know that impact and implementation taken together are 50% of the total score. So please pay equal attention to all parts of your proposal and work also thoroughly the impact and the implementation parts. Now let's see in more detail the content of different evaluation criteria, what is typically expected. So you must show that your proposal is innovative and relevant and timely, that you propose a sound methodology, including interdisciplinary approaches. And also you need to show that you will benefit in the frame of your project of the quality, supervision, and training. So training is a key element of your proposal. So it is very important to describe the scientific part, your scientific objectives and scientific content of your proposal, but it is also very important to explain and to take seriously into consideration at the proposal preparation stage the training you will benefit from during your project. The MSCA program is about the training and career development of the researchers, and it's very important that the skills that you will acquire in the frame of this project will further benefit for your career and will help you with this project implementation. So this training will be both training through research when working on your proposal, and you will also benefit from training in complementary skills and transferable skills. That means skills that you can acquire in one area and that can be also useful in other professional areas, such as management, IP, rights, entrepreneurship, innovation, publication, communication, different kind of training on non-scientific skills. And so it is important to get to know in advance what is offered as training by your future host institution, and to think about training that you will be interested to follow, to benefit from. Consider it also your future professional objectives, what competencies you already have and what you would like to acquire, and prepare so the good training plan both in scientific and technical skills and transferable skills based on what is offered by your host institution. And if there are also some training that you would like to get but it is not offered by your host institution, you can also follow it somewhere else with an associated partner or some other institution and use a part of your project budget to get this training. So what is also very important is the two-way transfer of knowledge. This transfer of knowledge, so it should be two ways, which means that you will learn some knowledge from your future host institution and lab team, but you will also teach something. You will come with your existing knowledge and you will bring this knowledge to this laboratory team. So in this part, you should explain what is typically the knowledge you will acquire from your host lab and what the knowledge you will bring to the host lab and what is the interest of this two-way transfer of knowledge. Why? The competencies you will be able to bring to the host lab will be important and bring benefit to them. Why the knowledge you will learn from them will be important for you and for your project and for your future career. And finally, what will be the activities you will put in place to facilitate this transfer of knowledge? For example, these can be some workshops you will organize or participation to laboratory seminars or some specific training that you or your host lab team will propose to facilitate this transfer of knowledge. Supervision is another important criteria. So this is about your supervisor qualification, of course, and it could be interesting to emphasize if your supervisor has international leadership in the field, if he or she has publications with high impact factor in reviews such as Nature, Science, etc. Does she or he have highly cited publications or some awards in the research? Collaborations with the top researchers in the field, or also collaborations with non-academic sector. It may be also interesting to show in this part what happened to his or her previous PhD students and postdocs. Do they occupy some important responsibility positions today? And finally, what will be the practical arrangements for the supervision? How you will meet your supervisor, how frequently, what form it will take, how many time, and just also to show that your supervisor will have enough time to dedicate to your supervision and will be sufficiently available to provide you quality supervision. Now let's move to the impact criteria. So in this part, you must show how the project will enhance your career perspectives and the employability. What will be actually the impact of the project on your future career and what doors this project will further open to you. What is probably deserves attention that even if your professional project is to go to the academic career and to become assistant professor and then professor later, it will be also useful to show that in case you change your plans, this project will contribute to open you new doors, including in the non-academic sector. And what will be actually the long-term impact, not only in the nearest future, but also the long-term impact. For example, how the training you will get in the frame of this project will help you to develop skills that will be useful to you even also in the long term. Another important part I would like you to draw your attention to is the part concerning the dissemination, exploitation, and communication activities. So you will need to describe different expected impacts of your project, the impact on the researcher career, but also the scientific, societal, and economic impacts. And you will also need to describe the measures to exploit the project results and the measures to disseminate the results and the measures to communicate about your research to the citizens. Here I put some definitions just to avoid the confusion between these three different notions. Exploitation means the further use of the project results by you as a researcher and by your host institution, which may be both commercial and also used for research and education purposes. So you should just describe how actually your host institution and you will use these project results in the future. Dissemination means the transmission of the project results to its potential end users outside the project, which may be both in academia and industry. So here I strongly advise you to provide a targeted dissemination plan, which you can present as a table where you will distinguish different categories of end users, such as scientific communities in different areas, industry, policymakers, and propose different activities that will be suitable to these different target public. For example, scientific conferences to target scientific communities, policy workshops to target policymakers, or some industrial fora or workshops for industry to target the industrial communities. Please be as much specific as you can in this dissemination plan. So not just put industry, but put what kind of industries, not just indicate conferences, but what kind of conferences. Also provide the calendar for these activities. So usually they will be put in place at the end of your project when you get the first results, but as more you are specific and detailed in these plans, more you are credible about your dissemination plan. And also to make these activities credible, when you will write your implementation part, please plan a dissemination, exploitation, and communication work package, which will be actually the concrete action in your project, and where which will show that to the evaluators that you are actually, that these activities are indeed part of your project work plan. Finally, communication is about to bring the research to the attention of the society and show its impact on our daily lives. And so you will need to show what activities actually you will put in place to communicate about your project to the society. So differently compared to the dissemination activities, which are about to transmit the project results to the end users, communication is about to communicate about your project to the citizens and to the society, which may also include the end users. So the communication activity thus may happen all along your project, even at the beginning, because the idea is just to bring your research to the attention of the society. However, the communication activities should also be targeted. So you just not put only public at large, but you should distinguish different categories of citizens and also plan different activities which will be adapted to the different target audiences. For example, if you target high school students or young people, social media can be a good canal for communication. While if you target probably elder people, which use less the social media, you should use different canals and plan your activities differently, and also formulate your messages probably in a different way. So this is why it is also very important to have your targeted communication plan with activities adapted to different target public. So probably this part may be difficult for a researcher to prepare and to write. So please get in contact with the administrative services, such as EU grants offices of your future host institution. So sometimes they already have ready ideas to put in these sections, and they have communication services to help you preparing your communication plan. So don't work alone on this part, and ask for help from your host institution. Finally, another point which is new with Horizon Europe, in case you already had experience with Horizon 2020, are the expected scientific, societal, and economic impacts on your project. So you need to distinguish clearly what will be the expected impacts on these different levels. Please note that in case your project will have only scientific impact, not societal and economic impact, it is not a problem, as Marie Curie actions are also open to the project in basic research. However, in this case, you should just explain that, for example, you have an important scientific impact, but it is difficult to still judge about the social and economic impacts, as your project is in the area of basic research. And you are also asked to indicate the magnitude and the importance of the project contribution to this impact. So this means that you need to provide the quantified indicators. And so the magnitude means the scale of these impacts. For example, the size of target beneficiaries of your project. For example, if it is in a health area, how many people will benefit from your the solutions you propose, while the importance is about the value. For example, how many healthy lives you will be saved thanks to your project. So finally, the last criteria is the implementation, the quality and efficiency of the implementation, and last criteria and the last part of your part B. So here I would like to draw your attention to this part, which is quality and capacity of the host institution and participating organizations, including hosting arrangements. So you will need to describe actually different infrastructure of your host institutions and argument about their capacity to create the best possible conditions for your project. This is about the organization, but also about the research and innovation ecosystem of your host institution. And so here, you just cannot write this part alone. So please ask your future host, your future supervisor and the administration to provide all relevant information to help you to prepare this part. And also hosting arrangement, which are about how you will be hosted in your future organization and what will be done to make your installation the most smooth as possible and to create the best possible condition for you. So again, here ask your organization to provide you help about what is done by the host institution to facilitate and welcome the foreign researchers, such as, for example, help with accommodation or language classes or school for children and different other arrangements which will facilitate your arrival to the country where you go. And just some words in the end. Please, when you will write your proposal, you sometimes will have an impression that this information was already asked in the other part of your proposal. Indeed, sometimes there is some information that seems similar, and you have an if you have an impression that if you know that you already described provided some information in other part of the proposal, so do not repeat it again, but just say that I have already described these activities under B1 quality of supervision, and just complete the information that was previously provided. So make the most of what you can put in this proposal, but do not leave anything empty, and explain where the evaluators can find the relevant information. Finally, take care of deadlines, carefully read all the call documents, take care of the page limits, which are actually indicated in the requirements concerning also the size of the typo, and different technical requirements are explained at the beginning of the B1, so you can find this information, and please respect it. Keep in mind that all parts of the proposal are equally important. And finally, don't wait for the last moment to submit your proposal. As I already said, you can submit it as many times as necessary before the call deadline. So do the first submission as early as possible, and then you can submit improved version later before the call deadline. So here you will find some links to Maurice website, the Research Inquiry Service, and to the page where you can find the national contact points in the country where you apply, and the link to the funding and tender portal for your application. So it's the most important links. My presentation is over now, and I will be ready to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Eugenia. Excellent presentation, very well structured. You guided us through all the different parts of it, and even someone like me who is not in research these days, I got a very clear picture of what is needed for preparing a very good proposal. So thank you for that. We have seen there are a lot of questions have come in throughout your presentation. So let's pick up some of them. So the first question is regarding also the page number. So the limit is 10 pages, right? Does this also require a reference or bibliography list? Has that to be included in the 10 pages? Okay.
Yes, it has to be included.
Okay. So there's no way to have an annex on that, right?
No.
Okay. Is there a page limit for the CV?
No, there is no. The CV is in part B2, and there is no page limit for the B2.
Mm-hmm. Eugenia, are there any formatting requirements in part B1, like font size, spacing?
So yes, there are the requirements. I don't have them all in mind, but you will find this information at the beginning of the template for the B1. Just at the first page, you will find all this information. Mm-hmm. When you download the template, you will find all this information concerning the formatting, the font size, etc. Because indeed there is different font size for the main text and for the tables, and it is specified there.
And spacing as well, right?
Yes, and spacing as well. Yes.
Okay. So so now we move to another area of questions, Eugenia. So there is this novelty about the 8 years maximum research experience to be eligible to apply for the fellowship. Now, is there any document that needs to be submitted along with the proposal stating that one has not more than 8 years? And if there's a document, like where can one find it and how to submit it?
Actually, you just need to indicate it in the part A of the proposal, as I showed to you. So if you had a maternity leave or experience outside research, but you don't have to provide any justification documents at the proposal submission stage. But if your proposal is selected for funding, it is your host institution who will ask you for all these documents, because it is actually the responsibility of the host institution to make sure that the researcher is eligible.
Okay, okay, thank you. So there's no separate document needed to provide proof of that. Okay. There in the proposal, there are some mandatory keywords, right? Or to describe the proposal, the topic. So one of our attendees has a bit of a challenge of choosing the given like keywords. Like, is there any advice you have on choosing the mandatory keywords? Like,
I would say that choose the one where your proposal probably makes the most important achievement compared to the state of the art. Yeah. Okay, well, you should choose the keywords which are the most appropriate to your scientific area, because they will be used to find the evaluator. And if you have doubts, this is maybe the advice I can give you, that choose the keywords in which will define the area where your proposal will make the most important advance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which are maybe closest to your area also. Mm-hmm. So, back to the CV. Is there a specific format of the CV to be submitted along with B2?
You have actually this format provided in the template.
Okay, perfect.
But it's not mandatory, so you can add some. It's just indicative.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question was, what does the letter of commitment mean?
Yes, the letter of commitment, in case you apply for a European fellowship, the letter of commitment may be requested only in the case that you planned a non-academic placement. A non-academic placement is, this is the new rule with Horizon Europe. You have a possibility at the end of your fellowship to have up to 6 additional months that you will spend in the non-academic sector. And only in this case, you will need to provide this letter of commitment. Your main host does not have to provide any letter of commitment. And this is the letter that has to be signed by a person which is habilitated to engage the responsibility of the organization, and which will just state that the organization will participate to this project and specify some for example, the duration and maybe the topic you will work in.
Can a think tank be as a non-academic partner in the proposal?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, you have a definition, a EU definition of what is academic and non-academic sector, and academic is our academic sector organizations are either higher educational organizations or research organizations or international European interest organizations. And if, so obviously think tank is not on one of those, so it should be considered as a non-academic sector. But if you're, just to be sure, if this institution already has a PIC code, it will be indicated in this code that if it is academic or not. And you can even find it through the participant portal by searching with PIC code of the organization. It will be indicated if it is a research organization or academic or non-academic.
UK always comes up. Is it possible to have submit a proposal with a UK host institution?
Yes, it is possible.
Okay. You also mentioned the gender dimension, which is important also. Could you a bit more elaborate on that? How important it is?
Sure. Indeed, gender dimension in research is very important to explain in the excellent part of your proposal. And so this means how this is not about how many men and women will be in your host lab. It is about how you will take into consideration the gender dimension in your research project. For example, if you work with mice, both take male and female species, or if you, for example, work more on in social sciences, for example, on different topics such as consumer behavior with different products. So take into consideration both women and men. Or for example, if you work on obesity, take into account the factors linked to female patients and male patients. And still, if you are working in the area that has absolutely nothing to do with the gender dimension, for example, in mathematics, you should just clearly mention that and not just say my project doesn't raise any gender issues, but argument and explain that there is absolutely no gender dimension in your project.
Okay, thank you so much. I just picked up the questions along the way. Another one was about the quality of open science practices you were mentioning. Like, could you explain a bit more about what you mean exactly with that, or what is meant with that?
Yes, so there are some mandatory open science practices such as open data or data management plan. And there are also some recommended open science practices. And just if you have a few minutes, I can share with you a table which explains the different practices.
Or Eugenia, should we keep it for the second webinar? Yeah. So it's
no,
a teaser.
no. Excuse me. I just found it, so I will share it with you.
Okay. Perfect.
So here you can see the table which describes different open science practices. So it's partly in French. So here you have the data management plan, which is a mandatory open science practice. The measures to ensure the reproducibility of research outputs, such as actually information on different tools, instruments, and access to data results for validation of publication, different metadata, which is mandatory also. Then open access to publication and open access to data are also mandatory, but there are also different practices which are recommended, such as, for example, a pre-registration or registered reports or preprints or crowdsourcing, or, for example, publishing in open peer-reviewed journals or platforms with open participation in open peer review. Or measures which aim to involve citizens in the knowledge production, for example, when the citizens are co-creators of knowledge in the frame of your project. For example, if you involve some patients associations in your research, so this will be, for example, also an open science practice.
Okay. Eugenia, is there a difference between dissemination and communication? Like there are these parts which one has to address in the proposal? What is the difference?
Yes, the difference is that dissemination is to communicate about the results of your project to its possible end users. And the communication is to communicate about your project and just your scientific area in general to the large public. So this is why I advise to put it into separate tables, but you can keep the same table and just to distinguish communication and dissemination measures. But these are indeed two different things.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And how important is it to already have a number of publications? Like, does that kind of influence the application?
Yes, it does. So it is the evaluators will judge on your potential, on how this project will help you to achieve your professional objectives, and of course, this further your capacity to get a professional maturity in research. And it is important to already have some achievements, and then so it is your current experience together with a project that will help you to bring somewhere where you want to come. But then if you have not very many publications, which can be understandable for a young researcher who just got PhD, so then just indeed your experience, the years of your experience will be also taken into consideration, and you will not be judged in the same way that someone who already has some experience after the PhD. But it is, however, important to have at least some publications.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that somebody immediately after finishing her PhD has equal chances than somebody who has been already, doing research some years after completing the PhD? Like, or is there, should one first do a bit more of research and then apply, or is it okay to apply immediately after your PhD?
It is okay to apply immediately after a PhD, and actually it is the most of proposals and also funded projects are actually coming from the researchers immediately after the PhD. So there is no problem to apply immediately.
Okay, that was one of the questions. Great, thank you for that. Now, in relation to that, what is the success rate of the Maurice Crosstalk Postdoctoral Fellowship, and how many fellowships in average have been granted over the last years annually? And also in terms of gender, maybe if you know, and also in terms of areas, like is there like a wider distribution, or is it like a concentration to the life sciences or to social science application also? Are they also successful? Like, do you have something, do you have some idea which you could share with us?
So I can share with you some statistics on the success rate by panel. I should also have somewhere the information concerning the number of proposals, but I need to find it out. So probably let's keep it to the second session. But now I can still show you the success rates, which indeed vary by panel. Just a few seconds. All right, I will share my screen. So here you have the statistics for the 2021 call. And on the left, you have European Postdoctoral Fellowships, and on the right, Global Postdoctoral Fellowships. And so you can see that the average is about 14% for the European and a bit higher for the global. And it is varies indeed from one panel to another.
Okay, around 40%.
Okay, and here you have the funding threshold. So this is the mark you have to get. You had to get by panel in 2021 to get funding. So for example, in life sciences is 94.4, and in economics is 92. So it's quite high.
It's quite high. The cutoff is quite high. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think approximately 900 out of 10,000 or no more, around 900 got funded, I think, last year, and 84 were from India. Indian nationals are the largest beneficiaries of this postdoctoral fellowship outside of Europe. So this is actually a very good news for Indian applicants, that they are doing very well in this postdoctoral fellowship.
Yes, indeed, Indian fellows are actually the first third country nationality to benefit from postdoctoral fellowships. And yeah, I will prepare a more detailed statistics for the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Eugenia. Eugenia, we have some more minutes. Are you still okay? Can we go on? Because we have quite a number of questions more, but we will see how far we get today, and then we will also try to take that for our next webinar for part 2 on the 17th. Eugenia, like the experience and the seniority of the supervisor and the ranking of the university, does have an impact on the application scores or the application itself? Like, how important is that in your experience?
Yeah, actually, from my experience, what is important is the profile of your supervisor and the profile of your host lab matches with your project. So you can come to a very highly ranked university, but to the lab which will be not probably the best place for your project and for exactly what you plan to do. Of course, if they have quality infrastructure, if the supervisor is somebody greatly recognized, it is a good point. But from my experience, what is even more important is the complementarity, as how your both profiles match, and why the place where you go is actually the best place for you to do your project. Compared to the competences they have, the relevance of the lab team competences compared to yours, the relevance of the infrastructure they have to your project.
There's always a question which we get is about who submits the proposal, because it used to be called the individual fellowship, and now it's called the postdoctoral fellowship, but it was always highlighted that it's the institution, it's a joint application with the institution, with the supervisor. But what is kind of the role in the proposal writing process? Like, how much has the supervisor to be involved? And in the end, who is applying for the fellowship? Is it the individual or is it the institution?
Actually, both apply, because the participation to this project will engage your institution. It is the institution who will get and manage the grant and who will recruit you. The project is your project as a fellow, but the institution should help you. And actually, the institutions, they want to have MSCA fellows, and they try to put also all chances on their side to get more postdoctoral fellowships. So they should provide you all relevant information and all support they can to succeed with your project, and including the information, of course, concerning the institution, such as infrastructure, publication, etc., hosting arrangements. But some of them also have more advanced support that they provide to the fellows with some pre-written parts of the proposal, or proofreading services, or coaching sessions. Usually large structures provide more assistance than small ones, but it can vary. At minima, they must help you with filling in the administrative form and with providing the information concerning the host institution and local infrastructure.
Okay. Does one need a consent letter from the supervisor while submitting a proposal?
No, you don't need a consent letter, but of course the supervisor must consent to participate.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay. Yes, of course. This is a bit, of course, we're now at the end of the application. So this question, how to find a host institution or how to find a supervisor. Of course, now I think it's quite late in the day to look for a host institution. There are still, of course, possibilities. We're not denying that. But maybe, Eugenia, from your experience as being a national contact point over the years and have been so strongly involved, like any advice for future applicants, like how to find a host, how to find a supervisor? Like, do you have any?
Sure, of course. So for 2022 call, it's too late to look for supervisor now, but you are well placed to do it for the 2023 call if you start from now. So of course, for me, the best way is to check through your existing collaborations. If you already had some contacts, or maybe your current supervisor in the place where you work has some contacts and can provide you advice. So the best, again, is during your PhD studies to participate to different conferences and different networking activities, to already have some contacts and go through this network. Otherwise, if you don't have any contacts and if it doesn't work, you can also try to check publications in your area and just try to figure out who will be the person you would love to work with, and try to contact this person to explain what you plan to do, what is your project, who you are, and just specify that you want to apply to the MSCA funding. So it may work, they may accept. Better is to identify not only one person, but several, and contact them. And finally, there are also different existing platforms that you can use to search for a host institution, such as Euraxess and the hosting offers tool on the Euraxess platform.
Thank you for mentioning that. A very good platform tool to find potential host institutions and expression of interest from host institutions is the Euraxess portal. Another question which we have received, I think, a few times is now, if I'm already a researcher in Europe, can I apply for the fellowship? And if yes, can I apply in the country I'm already in?
Yes, you can, if you respect the mobility rule, which means that you have not been living or leading your main activity in the country where you apply for more than 12 months before the call deadline.
So, but if I am doing, let's say, research in Sweden, can I apply for the European Fellowship in Germany? I'm an Indian national.
Of course, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the question. Eugenia, also the question about academic, non-academic, like a non-academic institution can be the host institution, right?
Yes.
And is that something which is encouraged also to look for non-academic?
Yes, it is encouraged. The fellowships in the non-academic sector are indeed encouraged.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking if we have some more general questions. I think we have a few more minutes, so maybe let's. Yeah, would you say that the application success rate is higher in certain countries, or is it very equally distributed across the EU member states and the associated countries?
No, it is not. It depends actually on the quality of the proposal submitted by this country. And of course, some countries are more successful than the others. So if you are interested, I can also include it in my statistics next time.
Yeah, let's do that. That would be great. Eugenia, also when it comes to secondments, right? That's also a very strong part of the application. The status of the partnering organization, does that kind of affect the evaluation scores? Like, you know, if it's a very well-known partner organization, or does that not play a role?
Oh, here it is again, it's the same as for your main host institution. What will be important is how this is relevant for your project. So even a small SME may be very relevant if they have exactly the knowledge and the infrastructure you need for your project, while a large company and very known may be not very relevant if they are not exactly in the area of your research.
Okay. Is having a previous fellowship, international fellowship, like, is that something helpful? Like, is that showing already, you know, give that more credibility or more advantages in the application if one already has some international exposure? Or
yes, I think it's maybe a small positive point, which shows that you are probably have capacities to adapt in international environment and already have some network, and so it maybe, it will be definitely judged positively from your CV.
Eugenia, does any experience before the PhD, can that also be taken into the account when it comes to the evaluation? Like if a researcher has some experience prior to his PhD with research work?
Yeah, sure. Actually, you are considered as your activity, professional activity, can be considered as a research activity after you got a degree which enabled you to enroll in doctoral studies. So after your master's degree, if you had some, for example, entrepreneurship experience or some research experience, it can, and if it's really valuable and important to put in your CV, so it can be a positive point.
So we know that many times one doesn't succeed applying for the first time. It needs maybe a second round. And what are the resubmission criteria now, Eugenia?
Yes, so resubmission criteria is that your proposal must not get less than 70% in the previous call. So if you get, for example, people who got less than 70% in 100 for 2021 call now will not be able to resubmit in 2022. But they will be able to, they can submit in 2023.
Okay, they can submit with a year gap. They can again try to submit. Yeah. And can they submit with the same proposal to the same institution, or there has to be a different?
Yeah, actually, they can resubmit in 2 years with the same proposal and the same institution, but of course it is advised to improve it if it was not very well evaluated. But you can submit a different proposal at the next call. For example, in 2022, they can still submit a proposal, but with a different institution, and the proposal should also be a little bit different. But the European Commission considers that if you change the host institution, sometimes it may be very decisive for your proposal, and it may bring this important change that will help you to improve your proposal. So that if you submit the proposal with different host institution, it is considered as different proposal actually.
Okay. And last question for today, Eugenia. It has been really an exciting afternoon with you, very interesting. But let's take one more question. So how is it possible to submit a proposal which is different from the PhD subject? Like, is it maybe a different area, a different topic, a different research field? Like, is that okay? Can one do that? Or it has to be related to the PhD?
Well, it does not necessarily have to be very close to your PhD, but you must show that you have already some competences to be able to perform this project. Of course, you will benefit from the trainee at your host institution, but if you completely change your scientific area, very likely you will not be credible. But if you stay in the same area, but the topic is a little bit different, and you have some competences already, but then you will follow the training to get additional competencies, then you can be credible. And in this case, probably it is better if the trainee you benefit from arrives at the beginning of your project, so that you have all necessary competences to successfully implement your project.
Okay, thanks so much, Eugenia. Sad news, we have to stop now, but good news to be continued with Eugenia on the 17th of August. We will have a dedicated Q&A session with her. She has been so kind to devote this time for us, for you, for your proposals. So please, whatever proposal-related questions you have, send them to us. We will try to answer them with Eugenia on the 17th. But for that, you have to send them to us as soon as possible, no later than the 14th, because it also will take up time for Eugenia to look at your questions and craft the appropriate answers for that. But you've seen she is an excellent expert on the Maurice Supervision Postdoctoral Fellowship. I think the questions you have posed, the answers you have received have been very, very helpful. And you have now a month to fine-tune your proposal. And I really hope that this webinar has helped you so far, but we have another second part on that. And I would like to thank again Eugenia for her time and for expertise and for her really excellent input. And I would also like to thank Shantala and India Bioscience for partnering with us on this webinar. And I wish you all a very, very successful proposal writing period. And we'll see each other again on the 17th. Until then, have a nice day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Lunchtime for you, Eugenia, I suppose. And also, of course, happy upcoming Independence Day to all of those who are here in India. Thank you so much. See you then on the 17th.
Thank you very much, Samrat, and thank you for organizing this webinar and for inviting me here. It was a pleasure, and I'm happy if my presentation met your expectations. And so good luck to all proposers for the upcoming weeks, and see you next week for the Q&A session.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.